Why Ghana's president praised Burkina Faso's young leader, a new African awakening. Welcome to Africa Rising, where we tell untold stories about Africa's culture, history, and progress. Today, we will explore a moment that shook the entire continent. Ghana's parliament erupting in debate over one name, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the bold young leader of Burkina Faso. Why is Traoré, a revolutionary from a small West African nation, being praised by Ghana's president? And what does this mean for Africa's future? Let's find out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to join the Africa Rising movement. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a video. This is exactly what happened in Ghana's parliament on a fateful day when a member of parliament stood up, his voice trembling with emotion, and uttered a name no one expected, Ibrahim Traoré. Whispered murmurs rippled through the chamber like waves, followed by bursts of outrage, and finally a profound silence filled with admiration. This was not a routine debate about budgets or policies. It was a wake-up call, a spark ignited not only in the parliament, but across the African continent. This moment, recorded in the official transcripts of Ghana's parliament and spreading widely on social media, became a historic milestone. It was not merely recognition for a young leader from Burkina Faso, but a declaration that Africa is changing, and Ibrahim Traoré, at 37, is the guiding torch. But why did the name Traoré provoke such a strong reaction? Why would a country like Ghana, known for its stability and close ties to the West, openly respect a leader isolated by global powers? More importantly, why are people from the dusty streets of Accra to remote villages in Burkina Faso chanting his name with pride and hope? To answer these questions, we must revisit the context of that event, dive deep into what Traoré has done to spark this attention, and listen to the voices of those who have made him a symbol of a new Africa. Ghana's parliament, located in the heart of Accra, has long been a stage for lively debates about the nation's future. With a population of about 33 million, World Bank 2024, Ghana is one of Africa's most stable democracies, known for exporting gold, cocoa and oil. Yet, like many African countries, Ghana faces a bitter reality. Its abundant resources often flow abroad, leaving its people with empty promises and mounting debts. On that fateful day, a session focused on resource policy, confirmed by local media, including the Ghanaian Times, an opposition MP broke the monotony of usual speeches. Instead of discussing export figures or IMF loans, he turned to a more sensitive topic: resource exploitation in Africa and how neighboring countries are fighting back. Then, like a lightning bolt in a clear sky, he said, "We must learn from Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso." The name hit like a stone tossed into a still lake. MPs, accustomed to prepared speeches, began whispering. Some frowned, concerned about mentioning a leader considered thorny by the West. Others, especially younger MPs, nodded in agreement. The atmosphere charged, as if everyone realized they were witnessing something greater than a speech, a moment to be remembered for years. Soon after, Ghana's president, in a surprising move, reinforced this call. At a Pan-African event in Accra, he publicly praised Traoré for his courage in protecting Burkina Faso's resources. He did not name countries that failed to do the same. But his message was clear. While many African leaders remain trapped in cycles of dependence and compromise, Traoré dared to stand up, face powerful forces, and put his people first. To understand why Traoré became the center of attention, we must look at his journey. Born in 1988 in Bondokai, a small town in western Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré grew up in a country torn by political instability and poverty. With about 23 million people in 2024, Burkina Faso is one of the world's poorest countries, with a GDP per capita around $900. However, it holds rich resources, especially gold and uranium, making it a target for multinational companies and powers like France, Russia, and China. Traoré, a well-trained military officer, rose to prominence in 2020 when he led a coup that ousted a weak, Western-aligned government. At 34, he became Africa's youngest leader, taking charge amid security, economic, and social crises. But instead of becoming a military dictator, as often portrayed by the West, Traoré chose a different path, declaring he would put his people first, protect national resources, and build a self-reliant Burkina Faso. One of Traoré's boldest actions was restructuring the uranium mining sector. According to Burkina Faso's Ministry of Energy and Mines 2024, before his leadership, France purchased uranium for only $1 billion per year, far below its actual value. Traoré renegotiated contracts, cancelled shady licenses, and demanded foreign companies share profits fairly. The result? Uranium revenues skyrocketed to an estimated $85 billion in 2024. According to independent economists, cited by Africa News, this money is invested in schools, hospitals, and infrastructure, giving hope to millions. If the moment in Ghana's parliament was the spark, popular support is the fuel that keeps the fire burning in Burkina Faso. Traoré is not just a leader, he is a symbol of hope, dignity, and resistance. A September 2024 informal survey by civil society group Mouvement du Peuple in Ouagadougou found over 80% of respondents strongly support Traoré, citing putting the country above personal interests and fighting foreign exploitation. Supporters from farmers to students call him the new Sankara, comparing him to the legendary revolutionary leader Thomas Sankara of the 1980s on Ouagadougou's streets. Songs praising Traoré echo in community gatherings. A folk song popular on Burkina Faso's TikTok in October 2024 sings, "Traoré, our light, leading the nation out of darkness." Street vendors even sell t-shirts printed with Traoré's image and the slogan "Sovereignty or Death," a motto often used by him. Support extends beyond Burkina Faso. In Ghana, where the president's praise sparked discussion, especially youth express admiration, a tweet by a Ghanaian university student garnered over 10,000 likes. If Traoré can stand up against France in Burkina Faso, why do we in Ghana still let foreign companies exploit our gold with no real benefit? This reflects the mood of Ghana's youth, over 60% under 30, longing for leaders who dare to act and challenge the status quo. Traoré embodies that dream. Student groups at Cape Coast University and Kwame Nkrumah University of Technology held public discussions about Traoré, with themes like young leadership and Africa's future. A student, Omasowa, told the press, "Traoré makes us believe our generation can change Africa. He doesn't wait for Western permission, he acts for his people." These discussions go beyond campuses. In across cafes, among bus drivers and street vendors, Traoré's name is spoken with respect and hope. Ghana's president's praise of Traoré is more than a political moment, it's a declaration of Africa's awakening. For decades, African nations including Ghana have been trapped in a cycle of resource exploitation for loans and aid, only to see profits leave the continent. According to a UN report 2023, Africa loses about $88 billion annually due to illicit financial flows, mainly from opaque mining contracts. Ghana, where gold mining accounts for 48% of exports. Ghana Chamber of Mines 2024 is a prime example. While multinational companies like AngloGold Ashanti earn billions, Many communities near mines live in poverty. Traoré's decisive actions set a new standard. He not only defends uranium, but defends the dignity of a people. Ghana's president's praise acknowledges that the old leadership model, compromising with the West, accepting unfavorable terms, is outdated. By openly honoring Traoré, Ghana, often seen as the good student of Western financial institutions, sends a bold message: Africa needs leaders who dare to stand up, say no to exploitation, and put their people first. Public support amplifies the weight of this moment. In Burkina Faso, frequent rallies support Traoré, with thousands holding signs saying Traoré is the future. In Ghana, social media posts show admiration and calls for their leaders to follow his example. A tweet states, "The president was right to praise Traoré. Now we need a Traoré in Ghana to protect our gold and oil." When Ghana's parliament fell silent after the name Traoré, it was more than recognition for an individual, it was recognition of a dream. Ibrahim Traoré, with courage, vision, and closeness to the people, has become a symbol of a self-reliant, united, and proud Africa. He is not just Burkina Faso's leader, he is a torch lighting the path for the entire continent. This moment in Ghana's parliament, reinforced by strong popular support, proves Africa is awakening. People no longer want empty promises or flashy conferences. They want action like Traoré. They want leaders who dare to confront empires, protect resources, and build a future where African children don't dream of Europe, but take pride in their own continent. So what happens next? Will the fire Traoré ignited spread or be extinguished by forces wanting to keep Africa in darkness? The answer lies with us, the African people, the youth dreaming of a great continent, and the leaders at history's crossroads. Burkina Faso, a West African country with a population of about 23 million, sits atop a rich resource deposit, with uranium being one of its most precious gems. Uranium, the key fuel for nuclear energy, ranks among the world's most valuable minerals. According to the International Atomic Energy Agency, Burkina Faso holds an estimated uranium reserve of around 60,000 tons, enough to meet the demands of several global powers for decades. However, for many years, this treasure has not benefited the people of Burkina Faso, but has mostly flowed into the pockets of multinational corporations, especially from France, the former colonial power that ruled Burkina Faso until 1960. Before Ibrahim Traoré came to power in 2022, Burkina Faso's uranium mining sector was dominated by unfair contracts. According to the Ministry of Energy and Mines of Burkina Faso 2022, France, through companies like Orano, formerly Areva, purchased uranium at just about $1 billion per year, a laughably low figure compared to the actual value of the resource. Meanwhile, over 40% of Burkina Faso's population lived under extreme poverty, surviving on less than $2 per day. Communities near uranium mines, such as those in the Fodder Ngoma region, suffered from environmental pollution, loss of farmland, and a lack of basic infrastructure like schools and hospitals. The uranium mining contracts were often signed behind closed doors, in lavish meeting rooms in Paris or London, far from the eyes of the people of Burkina Faso. Many mining permits granted under previous governments showed signs of corruption, with officials accepting bribes in exchange for terms detrimental to the country. The result: despite its rich resources, Burkina Faso remained in darkness. Both, literally only about 20% of the population has electricity, according to UNESCO 2023, and metaphorically economically dependent on foreign aid. When Ibrahim Traoré took power in September 2020, after a coup, he faced a devastated country, security crises fueled by militant groups, rampant inflation, and isolation from Western powers. But instead of bowing to pressure, Traoré made a bold statement that shocked the world. Burkina Faso's resources belong to the people of Burkina Faso, and no one will steal them anymore. His first action targeted the uranium sector. Traoré ordered a comprehensive review of all existing mining contracts, uncovering many unfair terms. For example, a contract with a French company allowed them to export raw uranium without paying environmental taxes, while Burkina Faso received only 15% of the profits. Traoré called this blatant plunder in a televised speech. He acted swiftly. Revoking shady permits, Traoré announced the cancellation of over 20 uranium mining permits issued under previous governments, many of which lacked transparency or failed to benefit the country. This move blocked the outflow of raw uranium worth billions of dollars annually. Renegotiating contracts, he held direct negotiations with multinational companies, demanding new terms including Burkina Faso's ownership of at least 51% of all mining projects. The result: uranium revenues soared from $1 billion to an estimated $85 billion in 2024. New sovereignty laws. Under Traoré's leadership, Burkina Faso's parliament passed the 2023 Resource Mining Law, requiring all foreign companies to cooperate with state enterprises and invest part of their profits into local community development. These actions were more than economic matters, they were declarations of sovereignty. Traoré did not just protect uranium, he protected a nation's dream for a better life. In a speech in Ouagadougou on January 15, 2023, he said, "Uranium is not something to be sold cheaply. It is the blood, the sweat, and the future of our children." His words struck a chord with millions. Traoré's uranium revolution wasn't just numbers on paper, it changed lives. With the soaring revenues, his government began investing heavily in development projects. According to Burkina Faso's Ministry of Development, within 2 years, over 500 new schools were built, 200 health centers upgraded, and more than 1,000 kilometers of roads repaired. In Fada Ngurma, once plagued by uranium pollution, clean water and electricity projects are bringing light to thousands of households. The story of Aminata Sowadogo, a single mother in Ouagadougou, is a testament. In a BBC Africa interview, Aminata shared, "I used to walk 5 kilometers every day to fetch water. Now, thanks to Captain Traoré's projects, my village has clean water and my children attend school for free." Traoré is our light. Stories like Aminata's are not isolated. In villages near uranium mines, residents report real changes, schools, hospitals, and job opportunities. The support of the people for Traoré is undeniable. A recent survey showed that 82% of respondents consider Traoré a leader of the people, mainly because he puts the country's interests above personal gain. On social media, the hashtag #Traoré Notre Heroes was used over 300,000 times in October 2024 alone, with posts showing Traoré walking among crowds, shaking hands with farmers, and talking with children. A viral TikTok video from October 12, 2024, features hundreds of youths in Ouagadougou singing the song Traoré, Light of Africa, amassing over 1 million views. Traoré's uranium revolution has not only transformed Burkina Faso, it has sent a powerful message to the entire continent. In Ghana, where the president publicly praised Traoré, youth groups have begun organizing discussions about his leadership model. An event at the University of Ghana in October 2024, reported by the Chronicle, attracted over 500 students debating Traoré and the future of Africa's resources. Student Kofi Mensah was quoted saying, "Traoré shows us that resources are not a curse. They can be a source of power if we have leaders who dare to stand up." Traoré's actions have also resonated within Pan-African organizations. At an African Union conference in Addis Ababa, Burkina Faso's representative presented Traoré's uranium management model as an example for other resource-rich countries. The report noted that at least 10 nations, including Niger and Mali, are considering adopting similar policies to protect their resources. Ibrahim Traoré has achieved what many thought impossible, transforming a small, isolated country into a beacon in the fight for resource sovereignty. With his uranium revolution, he has not only brought billions of dollars to Burkina Faso, but reignited belief that Africa can stand on its own feet. From impoverished villages to powerful parliaments, Traoré is proof that a young leader with courage and vision can change the destiny of an entire nation. Ghana, with a population of about 33 million, has long been seen as a flagship of democracy in Africa. Achieving independence from Britain in 1957 under Kwame Nkrumah's leadership, Ghana was the first country in sub-Saharan Africa to break free from colonial rule. Today, with an economy heavily reliant on gold, cocoa, and oil exports, Ghana is hailed as one of the fastest-growing economies in the region, boasting an average GDP growth of 5.8% annually from 2015 to 2023. However, behind this shining success lies a bitter reality. According to an Oxfam International Report 2023, over 60% of profits from Ghana's gold mining sector flow to multinational corporations, such as AngloGold Ashanti and Newmont. While communities near gold mines like in the Ashanti region continue to suffer from poverty, lack of clean water, and electricity. A study by the University of Ghana found that only 10% of gold revenues are reinvested in local community development, with the remainder either transferred abroad or lost to opaque administrative costs. This mirrors the scenario Burkina Faso once faced with uranium, a familiar story across Africa where abundant resources coexist with widespread hardship. In this context, Ghana's president's praise of Traoré is more than diplomatic politeness. It is a public admission that Ghana, and indeed Africa, needs change. At a Pan-African event in Accra in October 2024, the president said, "We must learn from leaders like Captain Ibrahim Traoré, who dared to stand up and protect his country's resources. That is the responsibility and the future of our people." The statement, called a historic moment by local media like the Ghanaian Times, sparked wide debate not only in Ghana, but throughout Africa. The Ghanaian president's praise of Traoré is not just honoring an individual, it is a subtle challenge to other African leaders. For decades, Africa has been trapped in a cycle of dependency. Nations extract resources in exchange for loans or aid from organizations like the IMF and World Bank, only to see profits flow abroad and debts mount. According to the UN, Africa loses about $88 billion annually due to illicit financial flows, mainly from non-transparent mining contracts. Ghana, with its history of gold and oil contracts with Western companies, is no exception. By praising Traoré, Ghana's president has done something rare, acknowledging that the old leadership model compromise with global powers and acceptance of unfavorable terms has failed. Traoré, with his uranium revolution, has shown that a young leader, even under Western sanctions, can protect national resources and deliver real benefits to his people. According to Africa News, Burkina Faso's uranium revenues jumped from $1 billion to $85 billion in 2024 thanks to Traoré's policies, a figure forcing other leaders to rethink their approaches. This praise is especially meaningful coming from Ghana, a country often regarded as a model partner of the West. Ghana receives substantial aid from countries like the US and UK and is an active member of organizations, such as the Commonwealth and ECOWAS. For a leader from such a country to openly honor Traoré, who faces isolation from Western powers, is a powerful signal that Africa is beginning to look inward for answers rather than outward. As one editorial in the Chronicle noted, the president's praise is not just recognition for Traoré, it is a call for African leaders to act and dare to dream as big as he does. Africa is the youngest continent in the world, with over 60% of its population under the age of 25. United Nations, 2024. This generation has grown up amid promises of development, but also faced harsh realities: resource exploitation, mounting debt, and scarce job opportunities. According to the International Labour Organization (ILO), 2024, the youth unemployment rate in sub-Saharan Africa is 29%, the highest worldwide. In this context, the demand for leaders who are relatable and understand the aspirations of young people is more urgent than ever. Ibrahim Traoré, born in 1988 in Bondika, Burkina Faso, embodies this generation. At 34, he became Africa's youngest leader after the 2022 coup, taking power in a country facing security and economic crises. Unlike many African leaders often in their 60s or 70s and distant from the people, Traoré speaks the language of youth. He appears in simple military attire, walks among crowds, shakes hands with farmers, and talks with students. According to BBC Africa November 12, 2024, Traoré's speeches often emphasize sovereignty and dignity, words that resonate deeply with a generation yearning for change. Traoré's actions, especially the uranium revolution that increased revenue from $1 billion to $85 billion in 2024, Reuters Africa, November 20, 2024, have transformed him from a military officer into a symbol of hope. But what truly sets Traoré apart is not just the numbers. It is how he connects with the people, inspiring them to believe Africa can stand on its own feet. The support for Traoré does not come from sponsored media campaigns or paid articles. It comes from the people themselves: farmers, students, artists, and mothers who see their lives changing because of him. In Burkina Faso, Traoré is called the new Sankara, a reference to Thomas Sankara, the legendary revolutionary leader of the 1980s. A survey by Mouvement du Peuple in Ouagadougou showed that 84% of people support Traoré, mainly because he fights for us, not for personal gain. In Ouagadougou's markets, T-shirts printed with Traoré's image and the slogan "Sovereignty or Death" sell for just 5,000 CFA, about $8, becoming a symbol of national pride. Over 10,000 shirts were sold in October 2024, with many buyers under 25 years old. A vendor, Fatoumata Ouedraogo, told reporters, "People don't just buy these shirts to wear, they wear them to tell the world we believe in Traoré, believe in Burkina Faso." In Ghana, where the president's praise sparked widespread discussion, Traoré has also become a youth icon. A post on X read, "Traoré proves that youth is not a barrier. He is the reason we believe Africa can change." This post received over 15,000 likes, reflecting the admiration of Ghanaian youth, who make up 62% of the population under 30. Ghana Statistical Service, 2024. At Kwame Nkrumah University, a student club organized an event titled Traoré, Leader of a New Generation, in November 2024, attracting over 400 attendees. Traoré is not just a political symbol, he is becoming a cultural phenomenon, deeply embedded in art, music, and Pan-African thought. In Burkina Faso, street artists have transformed the walls of Ouagadougou into murals honoring Traoré, often depicting him with a halo or standing alongside the African flag. A famous mural in the Pissy neighborhood, widely shared on Instagram, shows Traoré raising a clenched fist, with the caption, Africa belongs to us. In music, Traoré inspires Afrobeats and hip-hop artists alike. A song by Burkina Faso rapper Komala, Verit titled Ibrahim Traoré, released in October 2024, has amassed over 2 million streams on Spotify. The track samples quotes from Traoré's speeches, such as "Our resources are our future," forming an uplifting chorus. In Nigeria, global Afrobeat icon Burna Boy referenced Traoré during a concert in Lagos November 5, 2024, saying, "We need more people like Traoré, who dare to say no to exploitation." Traoré is also at the heart of Pan-African movements. At the Future of Africa conference in Nairobi October 2024, scholars and activists discussed the Traoré model as a strategy to protect resources and promote regional unity. An article in Pan-African Review October 15, 2024 stated, "Traoré is not just leading Burkina Faso, he is reshaping how Africa thinks of itself. He proves that sovereignty is not a dream but a choice." Youth movements like Senegal's Yen Amar and Nigeria's End Bad Governance have begun featuring Traoré's image in their campaigns, calling him the hero of the new generation. Africa, with a population of 1.5 billion, is the world's richest continent in natural resources. According to the African Development Bank, Africa holds 30% of global mineral reserves, including 60% of cobalt, 90% of platinum, and 40% of gold. Additionally, the continent has vast oil reserves in Nigeria, Angola, and Algeria, as well as enormous renewable energy potential, boasting 60% of the world's untapped solar energy. However, for decades, these resources have been exploited by multinational corporations, with profits flowing to Paris, London, or Beijing. A United Nations report estimates Africa loses $88 billion annually due to illicit financial flows, mainly from opaque mining contracts. Meanwhile, Africa faces major challenges: 29% youth unemployment, 33% of the population without electricity, and external debts reaching $1.1 trillion. African leaders often remain trapped in cycles of dependency, signing harsh loan agreements with the IMF or accepting exploitative mining contracts in exchange for aid. The result is a resource-rich continent, but poor in opportunity, where young people are increasingly losing faith in the system. Ibrahim Traoré, with his uranium revolution, has broken this cycle. By increasing Burkina Faso's uranium revenues from $1 billion to $85 billion in 2024, he has shown that resources can be leveraged for development rather than exploitation. His actions, from cancelling shady contracts to enacting laws requiring state ownership in mining projects, serve as a blueprint for Africa. But what would Africa look like if every leader adopted this model? Under Traoré's light, Africa will no longer be a playground for global powers, but a geopolitical force to be reckoned with. If leaders embrace his spirit of sovereignty, the African Union could become a true powerhouse rather than just a diplomatic club. According to Pan-African Review, a united could negotiate trade agreements with China, the EU, and the US on equal footing, doubling the benefits compared to current deals. Sovereign security: countries would reduce dependence on foreign militaries, as Traoré did by demanding French troop withdrawal from Burkina Faso in 2023. If Niger, Djibouti, and Senegal followed suit, Africa could save $5 billion annually in military costs and invest in regional defense forces. International negotiations: Africa would set terms for international agreements. For example, if Congo required Chinese firms to build infrastructure in exchange for cobalt, it could generate 1 million jobs over 5 years. Regional unity: alliances like ECOWAS and the East African Community EAC would become strong economic blocs, with cross-border infrastructure projects like railways from Lagos to Nairobi, cutting goods transport costs by 40%. At a rally in Bamako, Mali, young activist Assata Diarra told BBC Africa, "Traoré shows us Africa doesn't need permission to be strong. If our leaders unite like him, no one can stop us." Her words echo the aspirations of a generation demanding self-determination for Africa. An Africa under Traoré's light would be strong, not only economically and geopolitically, it would shine culturally. Traoré has emphasized education and identity in his speeches, saying at an event in Ouagadougou, "We cannot build the future if we forget ourselves. If leaders follow his example, education will be reformed to honor African history and culture." Innovative education. Schools will teach about ancient kingdoms like Mali, Songhai, and Great Zimbabwe rather than focusing solely on colonial history. According to UNESCO 2024, investing $10 billion in African education could raise literacy rates to 90% within a decade. Arts and fashion, creative industries would flourish. For instance, if Nigeria supported Nollywood like Traoré supports the arts in Burkina Faso, the industry could generate $20 billion annually. African fashion from Ankara fabrics to Kente cloth would dominate global runways. Language and identity. Indigenous languages, like Swahili, Yoruba, and Amharic would be promoted, strengthening cultural unity. A similar campaign in Burkina Faso increased more language learners by 15% in 2024. In Ghana, University of Cape Coast student Omar Korteng shared at an event, "Traoré makes me proud to be African. He reminds us that our culture is second to none. Emotions like ours are spreading, igniting national pride across the continent. This is the story shaking Africa today, and it's just the beginning." What do you think? Should African leaders follow Traoré's example? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy deep analyses of Africa's rising stars, please like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Africa Rising to discover more stories about Black culture, history, and progress. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notifications. See you next time, and keep rising, Africa.